you're trying to figure beekeeping out and you start hearing these things, well, you just take it for the gospel that, well, this person said that, so that's the way it is. So I want to talk about the myths of beekeeping. Let's get right into it. Because I want to share 5 myths that mislead. The first one is the one that I hear is that people say, oh my gosh, queens never go down. And this is particularly a myth that you will hear oftentimes in the spring coming out of winter when beekeepers are facing all the bees up in their top of the hive, like either the top deep or maybe up in the top super. They're really up high, especially those of us in the north where our bees stay clustered very tightly for most of the winter. They move really high up into the hive. And so they're in the top deep into the top super, if you got a super on there. And then a lot of people feel like they need to rotate their boxes. Like, oh my gosh, my bees are so high up. They're so clustered up there. Soon as spring comes, the bottom deep is empty. Nothing's down there. No honey, no bees. It's just empty comb. So I feel like I need to rotate that and put it on top of where the bees are. That way I need to do that because they say the queen never goes down. Like she'll never go down there to lay. That is a myth. Now, I'm not saying that the possibility of rotating deep boxes cannot help. It might help. But if you do nothing and that bottom deep is empty, I guarantee you the queen is going to go down there. She does. I mean, have you ever been inspecting a hive and you're in your top deep and you maybe see the queen and she's right there on a frame in your top deep and you put that back and then you decide, no, wait a minute, change my mind. I think I'll pick her up and mark her. So you pull the frame out and she's not on it. And you search through the whole top deep and she's nowhere to be found. And then you take that off and you look in the bottom deep. There she is down there. Within a minute, she's in the bottom deep laying eggs. And there's been many times that I've noticed that those queens in the spring will go back down pretty easily once the bees kind of realize there's some space down there. So that's one of the myths that can happen in beekeeping that we fall for. Another myth is that there's 3 castes of honeybees. Now, I know that I've said this before. You know, when I first started beekeeping, I just repeated what people told me. You know, there's 3 castes of honeybees. And then I would say, okay, there's 3 castes of honeybees. And to me, I was brought up believing that and repeating that there's 3 castes of honeybees. And we would always say, okay, you know, you got your queen, you got your worker bees, the female worker bees, and then you have your drones. Those are the 3 castes of honeybees. Well, actually, scientifically, that is not accurate. Anybody want to venture how this works out? Well, there's only 2 castes within the hive, and the 2 castes are one caste is the queen, and the other caste are the female worker bees. Those are the 2 castes. There's only 2 castes. Drones aren't part of the caste system. If you really look up the word caste, this ranking of it has to be within the female or the special sex orientation of the hive. So there's only 2 castes, and that's the queen and then the worker bees. That's different. Now, this is something that will be argued, I think, until the cows come home. Now, I spoke with several respected entomologists, PhDs today to make sure I was right before I said this, and they drowned me with information to verify that there's only 2 castes of honeybees, queens and workers. And I'm not going to cite all those things, but there are others that will say you'll find reputable people that will still hold to the 3 castes being the queen, worker, and the drones. And you'll read that, you'll see it. But technically there's only 2. I probably opened up a can of worms, but that's the latest news on how many castes there are. All right. Another myth is dealing with laying workers. And I always love to share this one so much. And if you follow my videos or you know much about my if you've watched me or my work or my videos very much, you'll know that I talk about this quite a bit. And I remember one time I was speaking at a conference in St. Louis, Missouri, and I was a part of a panel or something like that. And they got to talking about this. This is probably 10 years ago. They got to talking about the best way to deal with laying workers is, of course, shake all the bees out on the grass 20 yards away. The laying workers can't make their way back to the hive because they can't fly. They're full of eggs. And that way you get rid of your laying workers. Well, I was at this meeting, and that's when I had to, I'm not one of these guys that just want to, float my boat and show off stuff. And I was trying to be kind of reserved and humble about it, but I had to say, actually, that's been proven incorrect. That's a myth. Laying workers do fly. They are foragers. They gather honey or nectar, and then they fly back to the hive when they get back, and they lay eggs. And some people think there's just one laying worker. There's many laying workers. If you've been without a queen or brood for 21 days or more, likely that you're going to have a lot of laying workers. A lot of worker bees can lay eggs. They're unfertilized eggs, and they turn out to be smaller drones raised in a worker-sized cell. So that's a myth of trying to deal with laying workers by shaking them out in the yard and they can't fly back. If you do that, I guarantee you the laying workers will beat you back to the hive. They'll fly back. So there's better ways to deal with laying workers than shaking them out. That's an old myth. Here's another myth. Once stung, you're always safe from ever developing anaphylactic shock. I've heard this one a lot. I really have. And I think I've probably repeated it back in my early career in beekeeping because I heard it that, if you get stung by a bee and you don't have an anaphylactic shock, that means you're safe and you're free. You'll never, you don't have that in your system. So you'll never develop an anaphylactic shock. Well, after years of keeping bees and going to a lot of conferences and talking with, sometimes there's doctors at these conferences, allergists or something, and they'll present in their conferences that no, you can develop an anaphylactic shock anytime. In fact, they say this, doctors do. I've heard them say the more you've been stung, it increases your chance of later developing anaphylactic shock. I don't have the scientific backing behind that. Maybe they do, but I have heard medical doctors say that. So we're never off the hook. Just keep that in mind, beekeepers. Just because you got stung today and you're still alive and you didn't have a systemic reaction, just a local reaction, it doesn't mean that it can't happen any moment. So be safe. Have maybe an EpiPen on you or have some Benadryl. Always have your cell phone with you. You can call for help. We don't want to fall for the myth that you're safe if you've been stung once and did not have a reaction. Another myth that I hear a lot of is that if you feed bees protein in the winter, it's bad for bees. I don't believe that whatsoever. And here's why. Because bees eat a lot of protein in the wintertime on their own. They eat their own protein in the wintertime, right? They eat pollen that they gather and store. They store it in the form of bee bread, usually in the winter. And then sometimes they store it as just pollen, in the hive. And also there's vitellogenesis, which means that the winter bees have more stores of protein in their fat bodies, in their head and their abdomen. So bees have a lot of protein on board for the wintertime naturally. So all we're trying to do is when we feed them protein in the fall and in the winter, we're just trying to supplement a nutritional deficit of protein that they may have. And there's been a lot of scientific studies done that shows what happens to bees when there's a protein deprivation. So bees use a lot of protein in the wintertime because they're flexing their muscle, their wing and leg muscle to stay warm. They can actually dislodge. That's not the exact word I'm looking for. But they don't have to move their wings, but they can activate that muscle without moving the wings. And that way, muscles, when we flex them, we get warmed up. That's why when we're cold, we do jumping jacks or something to warm ourselves up. Bees do that. So feeding bees protein in the wintertime is not bad. The only negative side of feeding bees protein in the wintertime is it usually prompts more brood rearing, which is something that I personally love. I love more bees in the wintertime. I'm sorry. When I come out of winter, I love seeing lots of bees. You know, sue me. I just love coming out of winter. I don't like coming out of winter with just a little bit of bees in a hive that barely made it. I don't like coming out of winter with dead bees, no bees at all. I like coming out of winter with a lot of bees, and protein helps me accomplish that. So it's been good for me. Oh, and the other one is that honey is bee vomit. Have you heard that? Honey is bee vomit. Now, people say honey is bee vomit because, when a bee flies to a flower and they gather nectar from the nectaries of flowers, they have a what's called a honey crop. So they kind of draw it up out of the nectaries of the plant and they store it in their first stomach, a honey crop. And that stomach, it does not have an absorption to it. It is not like our stomach or intestines or something. Nothing gets absorbed out of that. It's like a tank. And so when it's in the honey crop, it stays there. It doesn't get mixed. Like if you think of it from a human point of view, we have a lot of other stuff going on in our stomachs, bile and acids and all that in our intestines and all that's when you throw up, when you vomit as a human, there's just grossness, right? That's not the case with bees. That when they get back to the hive and they express out the honey or the nectar that's in that crop, it's purified. It's got antibiotics in there. It's just perfect. And they're just pushing it back out. It was just a carrying tank. So no, honey is not bee vomit. And if somebody tells you that, you just have to say, no, that's not how bees are made. That bees have a second stomach where more of that is processed, where it's absorbed through the lining and all that. That's not done in the honey crop. Okay. So get that straight. And I'll give you a bonus myth that often misleads people is I've heard people say that too much smoke hurts bees. Yeah, they say too much smoke hurts bees. Well, bees don't have lungs. They have spiracles where air can go kind of, everybody is made of cells. So cells have to be oxygenated. But actual smoke hurting bees, I mean, we react to smoke quite severely, right? If you're in a smoky place where you, I got smoke in my lungs, it bothers us. I'm not saying that smoke doesn't bother bees, but what we do know about smoke is that it clogs up the bees' communication method of talking through pheromones, and they can't absorb the pheromones anymore through their antennae because the smoke particles have kind of clouded up or blurred their antenna from receiving pheromones. But like I've said and taught you guys before, they can wipe the antenna through their antenna cleaner on their leg, and they're back to hearing things again. But as far as smoke goes, too much smoke, I've never found too much smoke to hurt bees. It's disruptive because they operate by pheromone, by smell, but it's also calming because when they can't talk through pheromones, communicate through pheromones, the bees are less likely to react to things. And so they appear to be calmer because they can't join forces and do something through communicating, right? Like an alarm pheromone, when you're stung, the venom sac has an alarm pheromone associated with it. And that pheromone can trigger other bees to sting in that area because of the alarm pheromone. Now, you smoke bees, that alarm pheromone, if you get stung on the arm, smoke it because that kind of hides or masks the pheromone smell. So that's a bonus tip. Too much smoke I've never noticed it to hurt bees at all. Right along that, I'll finish up with this on my myths. Right along that is that a lot of people say they'd rather use a spritz spray. If you've never heard that term, spritz spray, it's 1-to-1 sugar water or whatever mixture, but it's a light syrup, 1-to-1 sugar water in a very misty spray, like you mist plants with a sprayer like that. And instead of smoking bees, they mist them with sugar water. That has never gone well for me. And I remember reading Reverend Langstroth, they invented our Langstroth hives. He said he tried that. It made bees madder. Yeah, you're getting bees all sticky on the outside. That's not Good. Now, every time I say that, some people say, I only spritz spray and it's been wonderful. My bees are just so calm and they love me. They make tons of honey. They don't have mites. They're changing the world with spritz sprayers. And I say, good for you. Some reason it doesn't work for me, and it doesn't work for most people as much as a smoker would. All right. Well, those are the myths I want to share with you guys that sometimes can be misleading. Now, what I want you to do, listen up, everybody. Listen up, Beak Squad. What I'd like for you to do right now is post in the comments, post in the chat, a myth that you can think of. I love interacting with you. You guys are great. You know, we have a language between us, between me and all of you that are watching. We have our own language, our own way of just connecting. You know, we're like kindred spirits. So share in the chat a myth that comes to mind about beekeeping. I may have to set you straight. Something you say may not be a myth, but what's a myth? Well, Bigfoot, okay, but I was thinking something more beekeeping related. I do have a big foot, though. I think I wear a size 13 shoe. Spritz spray, will it promote robbing? Of course, you're spraying sugar water everywhere. Yeah, it's going to promote robbing. What are the kind of myths? Bee suits will protect you. Gary, that's a good one. Raise your hand if you've ever been stung through a bee suit. I have. I've heard several types are more prone to swarming in the fall. Is that a myth? No, there are types of genetic types of bees that are more prone to swarming in the spring or the fall. That's it can be a genetic trait. Bees don't like loud sounds, can't keep them close to busy roads. Kind of true. They can sense vibration and be bothered by it, but probably they can easily get used to loud noises. They might abscond if they're right next to a horrible noise. Bees don't sting at night. Yeah, that's a myth. I've been stung so much at night. Queen bee can't sting. Another myth. She does sting. She doesn't have such a barbed stinger, and she usually only stings rival queens, but she can sting if she wants to. Hives need to face east. Oh, that is so true. I've heard all that too. And it's like, why are bees in nature facing every direction they want to? It doesn't matter. Sometimes it has a little bit of advantage, but not really, not much. I've got my bees facing every direction. I make them face what's convenient for me, not so much the bees. Bees, my bees will recognize me. Not. Bees do recognize you, right? Bees recognize our faces. That's been scientifically proven. And of course, I think they can recognize our appearance, our odor, our smell. But apparently you don't think so. Bees will always sting when they land on you. Oh, no, that's a myth. No, not at all. They land on us to get warm on a cold day. They land on us to rest. Good point. Yeah. Varroa mites don't live at elevation. I know, Carrie, that is funny that people say that, right? I mean, you know, there are certain things that don't live at very high elevation, 30,000 feet, of course, but no, mice exist at elevation, higher elevations. Winter stings are more potent than summer stings. That's a good point. And it feels like it because our bodies kind of lose some of this. We get more sensitive in the wintertime because we're not stung as much. And so it feels like, wow, that hurt worse this time. Good point. Venom is venom, isn't it? Yeah. I love what you guys are saying. I'm always impressed with the Beak Squad. You guys fascinate me. Wow. Oh, beekeeping is cheap. Yeah, that's right. That is a myth. Oh, that's an outright lie. That's an outright deception, a scam. Use a candy mint to get rid of hive beetles. Yeah, now some people, Karen, really do believe that. But yeah, my beetles will just lick that for candy and reproduce. Make more beetles eating that stuff. Feed your bees bananas instead of sugar water. People do feed bananas. Bees don't react negatively to bananas. They don't. I know they had the same smell as alarm pheromone, but John and I, Zavishlock and I, have done the studies, and people feed bees bananas. They like bananas because bananas are sugar. Bees love sugar. Yeah. Good points. Humming can calm the bees. Well, I've never tried it, so I can't say it doesn't, but I'm not going to sit there and hum instead of use a smoker. Bees can only fly half a mile. Yeah, that's not true at all. Bees can fly, I think the number is around 12 miles maximum that they'll go out and try to retrieve something. And after that, it's just not worth it for them to go that far. But they usually try to fly as close as possible, right, to make the most efficient part of that. That's very good. All right. Any more? That it? That's some good myths. Carol, hi Carol. The best beekeepers don't need to wear bee suits. Oh yeah, what's up with that? Right? Yeah, they just haven't met certain hives, have they? Oh, how about this one? No one has said this one yet. They say this. Here's a good one. I should have had that as one of my fifth one. Beekeepers never have arthritis. Have you heard that? They always say, because we're stung and bee stings help with arthritis, that you never see a beekeeper with arthritis. I've seen plenty of beekeepers with arthritis. I assure you I have. That's a good one. Yeah. All right. Well, that's good tonight. I appreciate that. I'm gonna have to actually go back and screenshot your comments because I may want to use those. Those were so good. Thank you guys. Wow, you guys are the best. I'm amazed. I can learn so much from Beak Squad. Thanks for being here. Okay, let's jump into some question time. See what's on your mind. I'll try to answer. It works this way. The more questions that I answer tonight, the less I have to answer tomorrow during my green answer chair video. That's live or not live, but raw and unedited. So, excuse me. Tomorrow, I'll be producing every Friday, like I always do, questions that you asked tonight, but I didn't get a chance to get to. Hi, David, first year beekeeper in Florida using a screen bottom board and mineral oil with wintergreen for mites. Found one mite on 250 bees with an alcohol wash. Any thoughts on this method? I have a lot of thoughts on this method. First of all, let me say any kind of oil, even mineral oil, can be dangerous if it gets onto bees and gets into their spiracles and all. And though I've never used wintergreen for this purpose, a lot of people will use wintergreens. They say it helps with small hive beetle. I wonder if that's what you said you did a mite count. Well, anyway, here's the way to actually do that. Congratulations. I'm glad you only had one mite. It could be that your mineral oil and your screen bottom board may have contributed to your low mite count. I can't vouch one way or the other. For me to vouch for it and to be respected in the scientific community, what I would have to do, I would have to put 30 hives. I'd have to have 90 hives to do an experiment. I would put 30 hives with Formic Pro and see what my mite levels are. 30 hives as a control group that I would not treat at all, maybe. And then 30 hives with the wintergreen, what was it? Some kind of oil. The wintergreen oil and screen bottom boards. And then I could judge all those 30 hives that I treated with the oil, the wintergreen oil, compare it to the control hive, compare it to another study done with something like Formic Pro or asolic acid, right? And then we can say, oh, look, with asolic acid, we had this many mites. Control, with no treatment, we had this many mites. With the wintergreen oil, we had this many mites. Then I could gain the respect of the scientific community by saying, by gum, he's right. Wintergreen really did only produce one mite for 250. Because if you just do one hive, everybody's like, well, we don't know if that was the oil or not. So that's, you said, did I have any thoughts on that? And apparently I do, right? So that's kind of the way science goes. You've got to be able to reproduce it over and over again to make sure that's accurate. Yeah. But congratulations. It may be working for you. I'm not saying it's not. My beehive is honeybound. Oh, that's good and bad, isn't it? How much should I feed them one-to-one now? I live in Washington State, Seattle. Can you harvest some of that honey if it's capped over and then put it back to them so the queen has room to lay? And we like to feed one-to-one to get them to lay more bees of winter physiology. So even though they have honey, we need brood, right? So that's why I'm saying if you can extract some of that honey out and give the queen room to lay, the one-to-one could still help power up the nurse bees to take care of the young larvae. That's kind of what you need to do on that approach. Yep. Hello, David. Al, it looks like AI. Everything is AI now. Are you sick of AI as much as I am? AI this, AI that. Oh my gosh, AI everything. I thought I said AI, and it's like AI is talking to me. No, Al from Central Indiana. I'm going to be speaking in Central Indiana at the Central Indiana Beekeepers Association meeting, December the 9th. Al, do you know that? If not, check that out. But anyway, when feeding bees one-to-one for winter and spring, when do you add a new jar or wait a bit of time? Oh, no, as long as they'll eat it, I keep that jar on there. Yeah. Well, I stop feeding them when dandelions are out. Yeah. And in the fall, I stop feeding when it's too cold to feed, 50 degrees Fahrenheit or below. Hello, David. First time beekeeper. All right. Good deal. Congratulations. I purchased 5 beehives. The previous owner removed all the honey. Do I need to start feeding my bees? Well, questions. When did they remove all the honey? What was it recently? If it was recently, yeah, you need to feed them. It doesn't hurt to feed them anyway, right? Just feed them because they need it. It's going to be good for them. Feed them some 1-to-1 so they can raise brood. 2-to-1 if you want them to store resources. But I like to feed my bees in the wintertime, my winter bee kind boards. But yeah, I'd like to know if there's no honey on there, definitely need to feed them. That's for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Don S. Hi, David. Awesome job. Learning so much from your videos. Thank you, Don. Can I store drawn out frames in totes after I freeze them for several days? Probably freezing them several days will help. The only possibility if they're in a warmer room and your frames have a mixture of carbohydrates and proteins, nectar and pollen, they could kind of develop some mildewish, moldy stuff on them by being concealed out of air in a tote like that. Experiment with a few before you do 1,000 of them that way. Not that you still couldn't use them, but you may not like the way they look. I've had that happen before. Hey, Mike, is green drone frames and screen bottom boards considered treatment free? It's chemical treatment free. Can we say that? It's more of a mechanical treatment. We call it a mechanical treatment because you're using a mechanical way, right? Screen bottom board is mechanically made or a mechanical item in the hive. So is green drone comb. So instead of using a treatment, it's a mechanical method of IPM. Yep. That's a good question. It is effective too. Hey, Brent, does the air pollen count directly correlate to available forage for the bees? No, not always, because some airborne pollen is what may not be something that bees are going for. For example, corn is air. What is it called? Wind pollinated, so it's in the air. However, ragweed is a very airborne pollen, very finely granulated pollen, and bees do go there. So it can correlate, yes, but not always. Bees may not always go for what is showing up. Yeah, but normally they do. I'm going to say 80% of the time. Yeah. Stung again, honeybee farm. Yeah. Does open feeding ultra bee pollen protein pollen substitute encourage robbing? It could and it couldn't. If robbers are not in your area right now, if you put it close to your hive or something like that, yeah. But if you're smart and you strategically place it really far away from your hive, then it doesn't encourage any robbing near your hives. But I kind of wonder sometimes, I want to study more about this robbing behavior. How do the vast number of robber bees get so excited so quickly is staggering. Something's going on differently than waggle dances. Yeah, definitely. Can I get by treatment free just using natural treatment without harsh chemicals? The only answer to that, Mike, is your results. If you take a very natural approach to beekeeping, and I'm thinking and you're thinking of screen bottom board, green drone comb, breaking the queen's brood cycle, those kind of more non-chemical approaches to treatment, the only result is going to be determined by your test. You can, again, you're going to have to do studies side by sides, right? You might say these 5, maybe you don't have a lot of hives. Say this hive, there's one hive over here, I use a Salic or Formic Pro or Pyroxanon, and I got hardly no mites now. But this other one over here, I've been doing these more natural chemical-free treatments, and my mite levels are kind of high. That's the only way that you can tell, or vice versa, is just by doing your own study. I can't really answer that question because sometimes even using Formic Pro, Apiguard, Apivar, I mean, sometimes using the treatments, our mite treatments are still high. I'm sorry, our mite counts are still high even after treatment. So it's a tough game. Yeah. Hi, Cindy, Northern Maine. Hey, my friend Dr. John Zavishlak is leaving to speak at Maine tomorrow. Look him up if you're, maybe he's speaking near you. I've had some local advice to use a salic acid dribble after weather is cold and bees have clustered. I'm concerned about opening up the hives and breaking their propolis seal. Yeah, the dribble seems like it would work better for me if they were spread out a little bit. I mean, if you dribble a cluster, it's not going to hit everybody, right? Yeah, I'm not a dribbler. We do use Salic dribble on the bees that we make packages out of. Yeah, I would be concerned about that. Opening up the hive if it's really cold is not a good idea either. Maybe it's not real, as long as you don't pull frames out. I'm a little concerned about that as well. Yeah. Maybe people in Maine know more than I do about it, though. I don't want to overstep anybody's experience in Maine. Hey, Larry, can I put AP23 and Honeybee Healthy in my sugar board with for winter, or will they have to go to the bathroom too much? I live in Northwest Pennsylvania. Larry, interesting, Larry. AP23, a pollen substitute powder. Listen, I've talked about this a lot, and recently I explained all this to my B Team 6 members. And honeybees have Malpighian tubules. So honeybees don't pee and poop. It's all kind of mixed together. And it's not really based so much on feeding them that they have to poop more. The idea is we're feeding them enough that they can survive and enough that they can metabolize what we're feeding them. So, boy, I went a little more extensive in my BTM 6 mentoring people on this one too. But it can be, that's a myth that if we feed bees too much in the wintertime, they'll have to poop more. They're going to have to poop. Hey, listen, here you go, Larry. They're going to have to poop just as much because they have honey on board, right? They have to have 70 pounds of honey on Illinois stored in their own comb if we don't feed them. They go through pounds of protein a week if we don't feed them. They're eating their own food anyway. I don't know why people think that bees don't eat anything during the wintertime. What's going on with people? What's going on? How do bees operate in the wintertime? They have to eat. All right, Sam. When should I remove the bee excluder? Remove it before winter when it's still warm enough to open up your boxes, because we don't want the queen to get isolated down below and the cluster move above the queen excluder. But I was reminded in a comment on my YouTube channel that people that live in Florida, they don't have to worry about this in warmer climates because bees kind of don't cluster. So it kind of depends on where you live. I learned a lot from you guys here in your comments. Howdy, Dave, Sherry, and team. Oh, by the way, I want to thank our team, Robbie and Jessica and Sherry. They're working behind the scenes to help us so much to make all these things happen tonight, flashing things up. Howdy, David, Sherry, and team. David, I got a new queen. Have not been able to get her in the hive because of temperatures. What's the best way to store her until it gets warm in a few days? Good question. Does she have attendants with her? If she has attendants, usually one of them will be feeding her some royal jelly is what she loves to eat. You can take the smallest, tiniest little dab of honey and barely let it sit between the gaps on the Jade's bees cage or the California mini cage. Just barely put a little honey there, let her slurp that up. Barely put a little tiny drop of water on there and keep her in a darker room that's comfortable for you, and she will last several days, maybe a week. I don't want to go too long. I've kept them alive a long time in that. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, just a droplet of honey, and then I kind of set if it's a California mini cage, I kind of set it on its side so the honey doesn't get on the queen, but she can still access it. I'd say if you got a few days. Yeah. Hey, Jordan, how are you tonight? Should I leave mouse guards on all winter, remove them, or reduce them? What size reducer? These are all good questions. Thanks in advance. Really enjoy your live feeds and videos. Watch them on my iPad all day in the combine. I appreciate all you do. So you're going down fields in a combine and you're watching my video. What if you get off path, and what if you get off the road? Our combine's so programmed today that it's all GPS coordinated. It should be, right? If I was a farmer, I would just want to have to be there in case, like an airline pilot, once you get on autopilot, you're just there in case something goes wrong. Okay, back to the question. Oh, here's the best way to deal. I don't have a robber screen on me. Let's see, you said a robber screen, entrance reducer. Oh, yeah. So Patrick, my friend and videographer, has a great technique he uses on his hives. He uses the Be Smart robber screen that we sell that you can find anywhere. And if you put it on your hive, like now, it prevents robbing, right? Got the little doors at the top that open. I've made tons of videos on it. But Patrick takes advantage once he's done with, cold weather hits. He turns that into a mouse guard because you can put pins. Then you can take it off and put pins under the bottom, and it elevates the bottom enough for bees to go in and out, but not mice. That's kind of cool. I like that. That's probably one of the best ways to do that robber screen / mouse guard by Be Smart. It serves both purposes. Captain Price, wondering how much you close of your hive entrance in the winter. I think it's better to reduce it. I really do, just because I live on the prairie and it's brutally windy. I'm frozen all winter. I shiver and shake. I'm miserable. My bees are miserable. It's windy. I can't stress that enough. So I think if I reduce it a little bit, it just doesn't allow that cold wind to blow right in there. I mean, I know bees aren't really warming the inside of their hive like they do like we do our houses, but I'd reduce it down to an inch, 3/4 of an inch. Second year beak in Manitoba, Canada. Can I move my hives about 1/4 mile at night and add my medium on top? If they're still foraging or running around, if you move it at night, in the daytime, those foragers are going to raise up above the trees. And when they want to go back home, the hive's not going to be there. They won't know where to go. They have no idea how to find their hive. You can do it when it gets colder and they're done foraging. That would work. Yeah. Foragers are so locked into their location. Hey, Natalie. Question for you, the candy boards. Can you put a hot box on top of an extra heat, or do you think there's too much of a difference? If you use like my candy boards, they have insulation, they have candy. A hot box does nothing above them because there's the layer of candy, there's a layer of insulation. So no heat is gaining access to the hot box above a candy board. Yeah, a lot of people get that confused, how that works. Very good point. Hey, Gary, have an emergency beehive removal tomorrow. Oh, I'd love to go with you just to watch and film you. Where do you live, Gary? Normally, I would never try this time of the year, but houses being torn down in days. I know I've done a lot of houses that were being torn down. They asked me, hey, my crew can't work until the bees are out. I know the odds of them surviving are slim. Suggestions. It is slim. The best thing you can do, try to get as much honey, comb, and bees, brood and everything, and assemble it just like you would want to see a hive that has gone through the whole year, and they have honey on top and they brood on the bottom deep and they're ready to go with plenty of stores, good queen. You just try to, rope those rubber band those, or tie those cutout frames into hollow frames and hope it works. Yeah. Oh, West Virginia. I'm not going to come help you. Yeah. If you were in Illinois, I'd think about it, but not coming to West Virginia tomorrow. I couldn't get there if I started out now. All right. Good luck on that. In spring, when bees prep for swarming, can I take the queen cells to make that, to make up the nukes? You can, absolutely. But remember, if you leave the queen in there, they will still swarm, unless you cage her or something. But you still got to make your own split by removing her, making them raise their own queen, so they won't swarm with her. If she's out, they won't swarm. So yeah, you can certainly take those cells and make spring nukes. Yes, absolutely. That works out very good. Okay. I didn't take my honey. I will early spring. I think that's wise. I do that myself a lot of times. I want to feed sugar water, but not mix them up. What's best way to keep separate? Add food coloring, or is there another way to tell the difference in spring? No, there's not. And what I try to do is I only will feed my bees when I know that the honey super that I'm going to take off is off of the hive, or it is entirely full. If you have a honey super on there that you're going to remove, like a top one or a bottom one, and it's full and you feed them, they won't put any more honey in that honey super. I don't try the food coloring. That's too it would work, but it's a lot of trouble, wouldn't it? Then you got food coloring, and some people are against food coloring in our honey. I know your dilemma. I understand it. What smoker is better, the pointy one or the round top? I'm thinking about getting a round top smoker. I did a review of that. I've not published that video yet. Yeah, I know. It's kind of a couple of reasons I haven't made that video yet. I made the footage. I just haven't published it. I can only tell you that now there are some very good smokers out there. I have tried the round top. I don't think they're bad. To me, I like the angled top just because I think everything flows through a funnel more easily. It seems like it in my mind, than the round top, but I haven't really studied the scientific method behind it. But I have one special smoker that I love so much, but I'm kind of starting to like another smoker. But both of them are bellows smokers with an angled top to it. So I do prefer the angled top, that's for sure. Hey, Tom. Good to see Tom here today. I pulled cap green frame and freeze in June, then back out on outside edge of top deep. Bees clean it up and then fill it with honey for winter. Works great. Yeah, they do. That is good, Tom. I've seen the same thing myself. That's really good. Green drone comb, if you've never heard of that, it helps control mites. Hey, Tom, last week you answered my question that bees can't see red. Does that mean if you were to paint a red hive, they couldn't see it? Bees, they see ultraviolet colors. And if you kind of look through books where people simulate what bees see, you'll see they see shades of different colors, right? I mean, if they see things on a flower petal that we don't see, that guides them to the center of the flower. But no, they'll see their hive because they can see the structure. It just appears a different color to them. It's not invisible, let's put it that way. But they're just not attracted, like a bright light compared to a red light. They're not attracted. It doesn't come across as a big bright light to them. Yeah. Hey, Ed, will banging pots keep a swarm close to the ground? Absolutely not. No. What's the name of that? Help me out. What's that called? I used to know the name. I used to say it all the time. It's an old time word where people clang pots together to get bees to come down and land. Oh, somebody will post it. Anyway, I tried it so many times when I read it in books. You follow a swarm. Tanging. Yeah, tanging. And you keep banging these pots together and you can control it. I don't see any reason biologically either why it would work. Bees don't hear, they sense vibration. Okay, they sense the vibration of banging pots. I mean, they're not. I mean, if you bang pots around me, I'm going to come for supper. I know it's time to eat. But bees don't know that. I can't see any reason at all why bees would be attracted to that. And when I've tried it, it didn't work. Do you worry when the farm fields around you are sprayed in the fall? Oh, ours aren't sprayed in the fall. No, they might spread nitrate fertilizer for corn maybe sometimes, but we have farm spray in the spring, and that worries me if they add insecticides. But I have a great relationship with my farmer, and he'll always call me and say, I need to do this. What should we do? And he's so good about making sure I either close up my hives or he does it when bees aren't foraging. Good communication with your farmer wins so well. Register with all these drift watch companies that lets the crop duster know. That's always a good way to do it. Yeah. Don't know much about fall spraying. We have corn and beans around here, so it might be different where you live too. All right. We'll take a couple of more and then we have a giveaway coming up. Elijah, should I use insulation in my top lid or something to prevent condensation, even though I have a hole in my inner cover? Absolutely. Yes. Elijah, you've got to insulate the top lid. That hole will make it worse. More heat's going to come through that little oval shaped hole in your inner cover, and it's going to make a stronger contrasting temperature between the outside cold and the inside warm. Insulation, please. Yep. All right, let's do some giveaways. Here we go. Tonight, we're going to be giving away a couple of things. The first thing is a Beak Squad coffee cup, coffee mug, Beak Squad. Thanks for being a part of Beak Squad. Oh, picture of me and Sherry on the back. There you go. Join us for a cup of coffee. We'll use hashtag something. What's it going to be? Oh, hashtag mug. So in the comment, just leave hashtag mug, all lowercase. Don't have to put it in there 50 times. One time it gets you in the running. 3 times won't help you any. So hashtag mug. Yep. And that'll be fun. These are really nice, actually. A good time to say that Candy, our good friend, and Robbie, they do a great job with the merchandise of Beak Squad. So they have hoodies and shirts with Beak Squad on it, and a lot of people get those autographed by me, so on. It's a lot of fun. Tumblers. But tonight we're giving away a mug. Somebody put hashtag capital M, capital U, capital G. Try it again, all lowercase, please. I want you in the runnings. So it's going to be all lowercase. Don't leave a space between hashtag and mug. No, somebody put hashtag .ug. That's hashtag ugh. That's not going to win anything. You got to type mug, people. It's on the screen. Just do what the screen shows. Now, once we draw and you win, you need to email us within 24 hours. And that way we can get that sent out to you, because you'll have to email us your address once we draw your name. So please email us within 24 hours. Yep. And the address is going to be beaksquadwinner@gmail.com. All right, Robbie, I'm ready when you are to draw the winner of the Beak Squad mug. Yeah. Beak Squad mug. Who's going to win tonight? Let's see who's so lucky. And if you don't win one, you can always buy one. If you got to have one. Oh, Marianne Livingston. There you go, Marianne. Be sure and email us. The address is beaksquadwinner@gmail.com. Congratulations, Marianne. We have one more giveaway tonight. Don't go anywhere. One more giveaway. Look at this. The Beak Squad hat. Yeah. A Beak Squad hat. Kind of a nice hat if you like black hats. I like black hats. I don't know if I look good in a hat. I wear hats a lot, and some of the other stuff that I do. Sometimes I wear a hat to keep the sun out of my eyes when I got to see something in a bright sunshine. Hashtag hat. You can win a Beak Squad hat tonight. Come on, people. If you didn't win the mug, hey, you can win the hat tonight. Beak Squad hat coming up. Yeah. These kind of hats you can wear on a lot of bee suits. You can still have a hat on and wear a bee suit, which I need to buy a new bee suit too. I've been wanting to buy a new bee suit. So I'm out there looking at different bee suits, trying to decide which one. I want a bee jacket. I never wear a suit. I just need a jacket. I need a new bee jacket. And I want one that's mostly ventilated. That's what I like. I need a little bit of size smaller. I don't know if I'm getting smaller or my suit's getting bigger. Something's happening. Bees are getting in it. The elastic is gone. Yeah. Usually men don't care much about elastic being gone. You know what I mean, guys? I'm not going to go into any details, but when we lose elastic out of things, we still wear them. So my bee suit lost its elastic and I'm still wearing it. Okay. Hashtag hat. Who's going to win the Beak Squad hat tonight? Robbie, I'm ready when you are. See who will win the hat tonight. All right. Get that sent out to the winner tonight. If it's Marianne again, we'll have to draw twice. She won the mug. Can't win twice in a row. Blaine Heckman, there you go. Congratulations, winning a Beak Squad hat. Hope you enjoy it. Got a little thing in the back. You can adjust it. I have to kind of make it big. I have a big head, I guess. And you'll have fun with the Beak Squad hat. And again, if you don't have, if you didn't win tonight, you want some of the Beak Squad merchandise, Robbie, can you put something up there? They can go somewhere and find this. I think you can go to my website where we have a link to some of the ways where you can buy the Beak Squad merchandise. But I think Robbie has a link somewhere he can flash up there. There it is. Honeybeesonline.com and then Beak Squad merchandise. Yep. Merch, I guess it says. So you can do that. We don't make any profit. Sherry and I don't off of that. It's all dealt with, but with Candy and Robbie. So appreciate your support of them for helping us out with Beak Squad. Yeah. All right. Let's take a couple of more questions tonight. What do you got on your mind? Brian, how do you change your wax out every few years? Do you generally gradually do a frame at a time or once? What do you do with the old wax? A lot of times we're only changing out the brood frames. And the brood frames have a lot of cocoons in them from generations of bees. Each generation makes a cocoon. And you try to make wax out of those brood frames, yuck. I'm never happy with that. Nah, I don't do that at all anymore. Nah. Wax is only good when it comes from a honey super. It's good to kind of have a pattern where you might remove 2 or 3 frames a year and replace them that way. But again, you can go 5 years or so before you have to start that process, before the frames get old. But you can do it all at once if you're rich, or do 1 or 2 a year. Yeah. All right. Hey, Henry, took my Burns feeders off my hives last week. The bees propolised over the screens and around the jar lids. How is a good way to clean off the propolis from the Burns feeders and lids? I like to use a torch. If you get a yellow, well, I guess it's going to be a blue torch, but use a torch. Now, don't melt the screen. You can torch it and turn it red and melt it, but use enough just to melt the propolis. And propolis will kind of evaporate with the torch. There's that website. Apparel, email Candy at creations by candy@gmail.com. Here it comes again. When to add insulation top or winter bee kinds, first year beekeeper. When to do it is probably, I live in Illinois, so my bees are fine until I get into late December. And I need to go into January with some fortified hive stuff, fortified food and top insulation. So I try to put them on there by the first week in January. I learned that from an old book I read years and years. These stuff on the top aren't anything new. Yeah, let me mention I'll be in Iowa at the Iowa Honeybee Producer Association coming up on the 25th, not this weekend, but next weekend. So be sure and join us over there. If you haven't, I looked and they're still taking registration. So I'd love to see some of you over there in Iowa. That'd be great. And is it too late to feed 1-to-1 to bees with Burn feeding board? Not if it's above 50 degrees. They'll still eat it. Also, I want to talk about the beak meet. That's coming up. There it is. That's going to be January the 25th. Mark that down. A lot of your well-known YouTube beekeeping content creators are going to be there. So jot that down. There's a website listed there on the screen. Visit cwbees.com for updates. Last I looked, they haven't posted a place where you can register yet, but I'm sure they will. They said they're going to make it available in the fall where you guys can register. All right. We have had 59 minutes of fun. And if we keep going, we're going to have too much fun in one night, and I'll be in trouble for you having too much fun. I don't want you to have all the fun in one place. We can meet next week and have more fun. I don't want to worry you out with fun. So thank you guys. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Some of you left donations, and whether you did or didn't, I appreciate the donations. I appreciate all of you just for being here and being part of our community. Yeah, you guys mean the world to me and our team here. So glad. We would not have as much fun if you weren't here. So you make our evening fun. It was fun learning about myths and some myths that you guys came up with. A lot of fun, a lot of good questions. And again, what questions weren't answered tonight, I'll do my best to make my green chair answer video tomorrow, post it tomorrow. Just look on my YouTube channel, and you can watch for that video to be posted and see if your question gets answered tomorrow. But I want to thank you guys so much. You're the best. I want to let you know that you guys are awesome. Man, I tell you what, I love you guys. I love seeing your names repeatedly on my channel, on Livestream. Thank you, Sherry and Jessica and Robbie, for helping out. They're always pushing buttons and making things look so nice on our live stream. And we're working hard. We put a lot of time into the live stream. We put a lot of time into our videos each week to make them both entertaining, education, try not to be boring, and try to help you guys. And like always, I'm not perfect. I am a certified master beekeeper, but I make mistakes and I don't know everything, and I don't hold the answer to all beekeeping questions. And just because you might do it differently than me, doesn't matter to me. I'm glad you're doing it the way you like doing it. It's all good. Okay. Love you guys. I'm going to say good night. I hope your week goes well, and I'll see you in the next video.